Okay, welcome everyone. I hope you guys are seeing me well and also hearing me well. I think it always feels very special doing this live webinar thing, which, yeah, though we're not being able to meet face to face, but there is always this very special connection when we're doing this kind of live event. So welcome everyone. Thank you for spending your lovely Friday evening for this workshop. Today we have a big task. Okay, we're gonna discover our passion and purpose. So how are we going to be able to do this in one night? I think that would be quite a challenge, but we'll figure out. Okay, this is going to be a fun topic. So for some of those who I might not have met before, just a quick introduction. My name is Gary. So I'm a full-time corporate trainer. So basically I do a lot of topics around presentation skills, storytelling, psychology related stuff. So yeah, full-time day-to-day basis, I run a lot of webinars. So just earlier today, I was just doing another webinar. So this is quite special because this is a public class, which I call it Let's Glow Live. So what it really means is Glow. Obviously, GLO is my company name. It's also a short form of my name as well. And I think the most interesting thing is really, I want to say Let's Glow Live because this is kind of more like a private event. Hopefully you kind of got the link either directly from me or maybe from some of your friends. So it's not like that open in a sense, but pretty interesting. Tonight, I think what we want to talk about is really, again, a big topic, but I think the fun thing about this is it's not just about work, like day-to-day I teach about presentation skills or different things, but this topic is really about life. So hope you guys are going to enjoy. The whole evening is going to be around 60 minutes. So my sharing might be around 40 to 45 minutes. Definitely, I want to leave a little bit more time for questions and answers because I love to hear from your questions as well. That's why we want a live event, right? So again, I'm very humbled to be here to be able to kind of share some of my personal experience, really finding my passion, hopefully my purpose as well, just starting my own company, doing things that I love to do. So today I would begin with talking a little bit about my own story, and then I'll talk about, again, my whole journey finding my passion. Hope you would find that helpful as well. And for the final part, we're going to work on a very, very interesting exercise, which you might have seen in the email. Is we reminded you to put on your earphones if you can, okay? Because it's gonna be a very special session, I would say. I never really done this on a webinar. Let's see how it works, but I could guarantee you it's gonna be something that would be very, very memorable. Okay, so you guys are okay? Let's get to the content today about the slides. Okay, topic for today. Finding our passion and purpose, how to build a meaningful career. To begin with, of course, talking about this topic, I also want to share a little bit about my own journey. So I did undergrad business. I don't know if there's any other business grads right here. Interestingly enough, I was doing this major in marketing and management. And if you have taken business, you kind of understand when someone is taking marketing and management, that pretty much means they don't really know what they want to do. So that was kind of my situation. So yeah, when we talk about passion and purpose, maybe back to that point of time, it's something still pretty far away from what I would be talking about right now. So I always wanted to work in some fast-moving consumer goods company. So I was fortunate. My first company was actually a big food company called Nestle. And I thought it was pretty fun because I work on a lot of products which actually could touch on daily lives of people. Worked there for quite some time, had a good foundation of marketing. I thought it was fun, but there was one realistic consideration is how much the company is going to pay you directly relates to how much they could earn. And obviously as a food company, they're not the most profitable company in a sense. So I thought, okay, then maybe I need to switch a bit to join a more profitable company, perhaps. So then I went to GSK, a pharmaceutical company. Then I was still working in consumer goods, enjoyed my job. The pay was better. But at some point of time, maybe for some of you guys, I just felt like there might be something more out there. Again, I still couldn't really figure out my passion. I felt like I liked marketing. But again, I was thinking there might be something more for me to explore. So like some of you guys might have done as well, I decided to further study. So I decided to go for an MBA program. So that I think turned out to be one of my best decisions in life because it really opened my horizons. I kind of seen a lot of different things, met with a lot of different people. And most importantly, I did my MBA here in Hong Kong, but I had an opportunity to go to the US for exchange. Again, a life-changing experience. Number one, that was California, life-changing enough. Number two, I think just at some point of time in our life, right, having a long career, just taking a 4 months break, not really working, rethinking about life, going to a different place. It just happens to be a very inspiring trip. So a lot of things I'm doing today was actually inspired by that trip. So yeah, had one of the best times in my life doing exchange. So if you guys are studying or going to study, definitely recommend you that experience. Came back, start to kind of achieve what I was hoping is to change industries. So then the first company I landed on was a luxury company called LVMH. Never really thought I would be working there, but it was pretty fun because I was working on brand management for some alcohol products, which honestly, I'm not a very keen drinker, but fun, fancy. Then I realized, okay, you want to make a career sustainable. You want to make sure you do something that you really enjoy, you really like, and you really feel part of it. Obviously, everyday night going to like bars and clubs, running events wasn't my thing. So moved on. Well, I still felt like I was a pretty practical person, right? So back to FMCG, where I kind of enjoyed, went to Unilever, had a more senior role. But at some point of time, kind of my calling came in as well. So that calling was asking, hey, Gary, you have done this MBA, you have seen the world. Like, why are you still back to where you were before? So kind of a good reminder. So I decided to kind of continue to move on to see what else I could do. Very interesting. So I went to management consulting, which was a dream job for me when I was in the MBA program. But to be really honest, I had no idea what I would be doing as a management consultant. I just always hear people say, yeah, as an MBA graduate, you should either work in investment banking or a PE firm or management consulting. That proves that you are smart. That proves that you are great. So yeah, that was the first time that I was earning a 7-digit salary, which I was very happy about. But very interestingly, I worked there for less than 1 month and I quit because I realized, I really can't do something that I don't believe in and I don't like that much. Of course, that was a pretty personal decision. So interestingly, actually, after I left the management consulting firm, I was pretty desperate because I felt like, hey, that was a good salary. Took me a lot of effort to get in, but now it has all ended. And that was the first time I thought about, what if I start my own business while I'm looking for the other job? So later on, when you hear me talk about my current business right now, basically it started back then. Okay, that was my first trial. I still remember I held this free seminar that was face-to-face back at that time, obviously. 50 people joining. I think 40 of them were my good friends, hoping just to convert maybe a few to a paid class. Eventually, 0 registrations. Okay, no one was willing to pay. I only had one friend who was kind enough to help me to pretend to become a customer and try to pay. But again, didn't attract anyone. So I consider my first startup a failure. Don't worry, life kind of takes good care of us. I had another opportunity, met with Apple at that time. So very interesting because I'm obviously a big Steve Jobs and Apple fan at that time. That was one of my dream companies. And I think more interestingly is when I did the interview, went to Cupertino twice, doing around 10 to 20 rounds of interview, got the offer. I was so excited. I signed right away until I was looking at the office address and realized, okay, Huaihai Zhonglu. I'm not really familiar with this address, though I have been living in Hong Kong for quite some time. Then I realized actually it was in Shanghai. Okay, so I never thought I would be working abroad, but then yes, Apple brought me to Shanghai. So after some time, I just thought, yeah, I want to come back to Hong Kong, want to settle with my family. World is small. I had the opportunity, join LVMH again, this time as an MBA trainee. Different role, different perspectives, more strategy related. Still, from a career point of view, I can't ask for more because there was a lot of management attention. Those were big projects. It was a fun company. But there was still something in me that I kind of felt like, yeah, maybe it's because I have worked in some of these companies that I always dreamed of working for. But when I went there, it's kind of like Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So it's just like another job, to be honest, right? I have been maybe fantasizing a little bit too much about that. So then I was thinking, okay, so now if I want to stay in Hong Kong to settle my family, and in the corporate world, like no matter where I work, it doesn't seem to really satisfy me. Should I be thinking about something else? So again, I thought about starting my own business, and I started to have a more concrete idea that I really want to do corporate training to begin with. But at the same time, I don't feel like I had the courage just to kind of start right away. So I was thinking, okay, what would be a good midpoint? Then, okay, interestingly enough, life, again, just gives you different gifts. At that time, back to my alma mater, back at HKUST, because I was a very keen MBA ambassador when I was studying in the school. So I had a good connection with our ex-admissions head. So by the time she was about to leave, she actually gave me a call and said, hey, Gary, you were always passionate about education and like talking about the program. Would you consider to kind of take up my role after I leave? There's going to be an application opening up very soon. I never really thought about it, but if I think about it, it kind of makes sense because now I want to make the transition from corporate to starting my business in training and education. But honestly, I was all the way in marketing and I didn't have that background. So where do I begin with? And also, honestly, I had that kind of fear inside of me. Would I fail again? So now I have this opportunity going to the school. Of course, not as a PhD. I feel like I'm not going to have a lot of like upward progress in the school, but that was a good transition point. And I said to myself, if I'm committed to start my own business, why don't you see this as a midpoint? Go there first, see what happens. And because now I'm jumping out of this corporate ship, maybe it's going to give me more courage when I cannot look back to start my company. So exactly, back in 2018, finally, I decided to start my own company called Glow Training, which is now a corporate training firm. So very lucky, after 2 years, was able to be working with some of the best companies in the world. Very grateful, a very interesting journey, and very thankful. So if you look at the whole journey, I would say terrible career planning, basically no career planning. Kind of lucky because I was jumping around different companies. Obviously, I had pretty good interview skills. I would admit that. But I think the key thing, the only thing that was consistent when I look back in this track, which I also suggest you to look back in your track, is really my passion. Okay. Every decision that I made was pretty much guided by my passion. I wanted to do that, including one decision that I mentioned, why I wanted to leave the management consulting firm really early was exactly, it's not because of the salary, not because of the job nature. It's just, I didn't really believe in what I was doing, and I didn't really feel that excitement that I felt when I was doing other jobs. So we'll come back to this and see how this relates to my whole journey. Again, back to today. That was my short story. I wanted to kind of let you know more so you kind of see where I'm coming from. But today, again, in a 1 hour session to be able to find our passion, I would say that is going to be pretty challenging. Think about how much time do people take on average to find their passion? Maybe a lifetime? Maybe 2 lives. I don't know. It's going to take a long time. But in today's session, again, I really want to share as much as I can, looking back in the whole process, reviewing what I have learned. Hopefully there will be something that you feel interesting. So I think my only objective is just after today's session, if there's one thought or this kind of tiny little inspiration that you have, which might change your whole life trajectory, that would be the best blessing and reward for myself. So now, what is passion? I want you to kind of think about this a little bit. And if you can, you could also obviously type this on the chat box. When I kind of have this empty space for you, passion is, what would you fill in? Think a little bit about it. Is it going to be an activity, like passion is music, sports, is singing, or passion is about helping people, contribution, connecting with people? Whatever that is, I want you to kind of take some time and write it down for yourself. What does passion mean to you? And the most important thing is go with your intuitions. Don't overthink why I'm writing this. But yeah, passion is whatever your heart wants to say, try to write it down. Okay, so if you have that, don't worry. Along the way, you could kind of continue working on that. Now, what I want to do is share with you an inspirational video. And when we talk about passion, who could be better than referring to Steve Jobs? So what I want to do right now is to share with you a video that really inspired me a lot, which I guess some of you might have watched it before, was actually one of the speeches that Steve Jobs made back in Stanford. And he was talking about finding his passion and about connecting the dots. Again, what does that really mean? And what are the implications for us? Afterwards, I would tell you a little bit about my take on here.
And 17 years later, I did go to college. But I naively chose a college that was almost as expensive as Stanford. And all of my working class parents' savings were being spent on my college tuition. After 6 months, I couldn't see the value in it. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and no idea how college was going to help me figure it out. And here I was, spending all of the money my parents had saved their entire life. So I decided to drop out and trust that it would all work out okay. It was pretty scary at the time, but looking back, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. The minute I dropped out, I could stop taking the required classes that didn't interest me and begin dropping in on the ones that looked far more interesting. And much of what I stumbled into by following my curiosity and intuition turned out to be priceless later on. Let me give you one example. Reed College at that time offered perhaps the best calligraphy instruction in the country. Throughout the campus, every poster, every label on every drawer was beautifully hand calligraphed. Because I had dropped out and didn't have to take the normal classes, I decided to take a calligraphy class to learn how to do this. I learned about serif and sans serif typefaces, about varying the amount of space between different letter combinations, about what makes great typography great. It was beautiful, historical, artistically subtle in a way that science can't capture, and I found it fascinating. None of this had even a hope of any practical application in my life. But 10 years later, when we were designing the first Macintosh computer, it all came back to me. And we designed it all into the Mac. It was the first computer with beautiful typography. If I had never dropped in on that single course in college, the Mac would have never had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts. And since Windows just copied the Mac, it's likely that no personal computer would have them. If I had never dropped out, I would have never dropped in on that calligraphy class, and personal computers might not have the wonderful typography that they do. Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make all the difference.
So my take, what is really this video is about, it's basically, if we think about different connection points, right? What Steve Jobs is saying, just follow our passion and things somehow connect. So can you kind of guarantee anything right there? Maybe not. But the key thing is, as long as we follow our passion, somehow things would just kind of glue together and it would paint our future. So I think I did draw some similarities there just thinking about my path, right? I never really thought about thinking to become a trainer, to be honest. But if I think about my past, right, I have been in marketing for a long time. I always liked marketing. If I think about why, is because I like that feeling of being able to impact others and be creative. And obviously that have trained me with the skills to better communicate. One of my other passion is I always loved to become the ambassador when I was studying the MBA program. And yeah, those were some of the things that I would do for sure whenever I was asked to go for it. Then why is that the case? I asked myself, yeah, maybe I just like to present to people. I like to share my experience and I like inspiring people, right? I kind of feel that already. One more thing that was pretty interesting is I always loved drumming. So I was a drummer for like more than 10 years, loved the process. Never really thought of why, but now when I think about it as a speaker, I always do a lot of public events in front of a lot of people. And it is exactly because I have been a drummer for a long time. I'm quite used to the stage. So now going on the stage as a presenter, I kind of could feel the same sense of confidence. And, as a drummer, you kind of feel like you're managing the whole setting, right? I kind of feel the same when I do presentations right now. So honestly, can I really explain anything back at that time? 100%. No, I can't tell you anything. But it's all about believing in life, believing about the process. So now if I could go back to my slides right here. This is how I see it, okay? If the point on the bottom is where we are right now, the point on the very top is where you would be in 10 to 20 years, which I have no idea about. Life is never a straight line. Life is interesting not because of the destination, it is all about the journey. Think about it. We spend a lot of time very challenging just to go to one part, but really the interesting part is the ups and downs that we have gone through, which makes me feel like living. Once we go there, obviously we're going to be very happy, but that happy is not lasting. So same thing. This is kind of like one analogy I like to use is if you think about going back to the university, you still remember a game called the orientation game, which they're going to tell you there are 10 stations, go to station 1. You don't know what to expect, but go there. Once you go there, we're going to show you an envelope. And when you open the envelope, you're going to see something and see what it's going to tell you. After that, move to station 2, station 3. So why I wanted to share my story earlier is because exactly that's what I experienced. I never really thought about the whole planning when I was jumping around different roles, but I always had this in mind is I had to follow my passion. And now if I think back, again, back to my kind of corporate training business right now, it would be impossible for me to start this if I never joined the MBA office, because that network and training and also my interaction, that was very fundamental for my whole startup. And if I think about working in all these industries, so you might feel that I have a pretty jumpy career. Again, I never thought about it. It wasn't my goal to be jumpy, but it's exactly because I worked in 7 different industries before. Now, as a trainer, I'm able to connect with a lot of industries as well. So again, all of these kind of things, I never thought about it, but when I follow my passion, somehow things just kind of worked out. So my take really is passion is the guide to our purpose. One thing we need to know is we need to believe in the process. I'm following my passion. I don't know what's going to happen next, but that's exactly what is exciting about life, right? Think about a roller coaster. You're excited the whole way. Why? Because you don't know what's going to happen next, but you still enjoy that moment. So I know it might be a little bit more conceptual for you at this point in time, but really take some time to think about it, because life is short, right? We could always spend time to spend a safe life, but what would we be thinking about by the time we're going to end this life, right? Go to that point. Are we going to regret? Do you rather regret that you tried something, or do you rather regret you never tried something? I think that is the question we want to ask. So a lot of friends talk to me and ask, okay, so how do I define whether that is passion? So I have came up with a checklist, which earlier I saw in the chat box, you guys were talking about your passion. Think about whether this is something that is in your checklist as well. Number 1, something you would do even without compensation. So I think the easier way to kind of interpret this is, imagine this. Now, if you have all the money in the world, you have billions and billions of assets, you don't really need to work for the money. And think about the work you're doing right now. If you are very rich, you don't need to worry about money. Would you still go back to work tomorrow? Yes or no? If yes, there's a good chance you are doing something that you're really passionate about. Okay, I always like to make this joke. Sorry for some of the accountants. Sometimes I would say, okay, if now I'm an accountant, right? I work on balance sheets on a daily basis. So if I now become very rich, financially, no burdens, would I still go back to work on a balance sheet tomorrow? If your answer is no, then maybe balance sheet is not your passion. But right now, I'm doing this kind of training thing. As I mentioned, I've been doing a lot of sessions in daytime already. Why am I still doing this during the evening? Is because I really like it. And if I'm lucky enough to become that really financially sustainable person, would I still do another talk tomorrow? For sure, definitely. Second thing, it's something that energizes you and motivates you. So one thing I would prompt you to think about is, now if I'm thinking about, am I really that passionate about what I'm doing? Think about this. If based on your job right now, your boss would be giving you a very, very special task tomorrow. It's going to be a very big project. What is your gut feel? Your gut feel, of course, everyone would be a little bit worried at first because it's a big project, but are you feeling like, oh, big project, why me? Why are we doing this again? Why, right? We ask a lot of why questions. Or is it going to be, wow, this big project. Yeah, it's big, but yeah, let's see. Okay, might be fun. So I think the contrast is exactly based on the management consulting experience I had. When I was working there, a lot of big scale projects, everything that I wished for when I was an MBA student. But at that time, I really was honest with my heart. Was I really that excited? No. Whenever they came in, I just was thinking about why do we need to do this? Like, is the client really benefiting? Blah, 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 all these kind of stuff. But now when it comes to what I'm doing right now, my passion, training, if tomorrow I'm going to have a big gig, just like back in the time when I was first invited to become a TED speaker, did I have a lot of pressure? Did I worry? Yes. But was I excited at the same time? Yes, I was very excited. And yeah, this is going to be interesting, but let's see how it goes. So think about what you're considering right now to be your passion. Do you have the same feeling when there's a big project in front of you? Again, are you asking, why are we doing this? Or are we asking, okay, this is going to be big. Let's see. Third thing, something that you would pursue for perfection. So hopefully, if you realize one thing, one of my passion is working on PowerPoints. Okay, I wouldn't say my PowerPoints are super good, but I think versus the average PowerPoint, I have put quite a lot of effort just to kind of work on the animation and everything. Just because when you're passionate about something, like no matter it's going to be music, sports, or whatever, you don't need people to motivate you. You are just self-motivated to kind of continue to do better and better. And even nowadays, as a corporate trainer, I teach presentation skills pretty much every week. Every session, I'm still thinking about, before I start the session, what could I be doing better next time, even if it's just 0.1%. So what is really driving me to do that? I don't know, but that's a natural drive. So think about what you're passionate about and think about your work right now. Do you have that feeling? Do you want to strive for perfection? Something you see the meaning behind. I think that's really important. So out of all the things that I've done, again, besides the consulting job, I was pretty passionate about it. Why? Now, if I think about it, all makes sense. Because if you look at the only consistency that I had in my career was I was always working for big consumer brands. And why big consumer brands really excite me? Because I still remember when I was, at that time before I joined Unilever, I was looking at their company profile and one sentence really struck me. That was saying that we touch billions of lives every day. It was because that line, I felt like this is a great company. So though I was at that time selling deodorants, right? When I was at Apple, I was selling phones. Back in Nestle, I was selling food. What was the meaning that I saw behind that? It was, yeah, because when I do this well, our products are touching people's lives. It is making them having a better life, doing things that they want. So I still feel like empowering people. So the same question goes to you. Whatever you're doing right now or something that you would identify as your passion, do you see the meaning? And usually when I talk about meaning, it is about contribution. How am I contributing to someone's lives? How am I creating value? Final thing. Okay, this is the ultimate test. If you only had 3 months time left in your life, tomorrow, now, countdown, 3 months, would you still do this again? If it's a yes, of course, you're not going to do that for the 3 months because you need to take care of a lot of other things. But if you still would say yes, even if you only have 3 months, that is your thing. But if no, then chances are maybe not your passion. So hope this kind of gives you a good checklist. Again, our objective is not to find your passion right away tonight. Okay, if I'm able to do that, that would be fantastic. But if not, just kind of bear these things in mind and try to remind yourself, okay, based on the work right now or some of the work I might be considering for my next step, does it work on this checklist? If it works on this checklist, again, I would only say there's a very good chance this is something that is really your passion. Okay, then the most typical question. Yeah, Gary, it's good to hear about all this passion thing. It sounds very fancy, but is passion practical? I'm sorry to say, no. That is exactly why passion is so difficult, because only having passion is not enough. What else do we need? I like to see this in this kind of matter, is there are 3 key circles around this. On the left, we have passion. On the top is work or a career. On the right-hand side is about your strength. So let me try to ask you this. If now we're somewhere on the left part of the circle, right? It's something that I really love, like music, basketball, whatever that is. I'm really passionate about it. But based on where I'm living, it cannot become a career. Just like I'm not sure if I could make basketball my career in Hong Kong if I really want to do that. And am I good enough, right? I really like it, but am I good enough to make it my career? If no, then that is just a hobby. Sorry, that's just a hobby. And we all have hobbies. I have hobbies as well, right? Drumming is my hobby. Am I good at it? I think I'm pretty good. But would it make it a satisfying career for myself based on where I'm staying right now? Maybe not. So not working yet. So on the right-hand side, there might be also something that you're really good at, but you're only good at this, you don't really like it, and at the same time, it might not be able to become a career. That's what we call talent, okay? So maybe for some of you, you might be practicing piano since you were like a kid. You were always doing very well. So did you really like it? You say, no, it's just because my parents were forcing me to do this, whatever. And again, could playing piano become your career? Technically, yes. But again, chances are maybe it's going to be pretty challenging because of how small the industry is and how competitive it is. So that would be just a strength. Still, it's not going to be something that is that workable. So for my case, I felt like doing analysis is something that is kind of my strong suit. I felt like I had the strength. Could it become a career? Yes, just becoming a consultant, being analytical, that could be a career. But the thing I'm missing that time was the left-hand side. Was I passionate about it? No, it didn't go through the checklist that I just showed you right now. So what is the sweet spot? It is exactly in between. Something that passion, you love it. You are also have the strength. You're also good at it. And again, it could become a career as well. That is what I call the congruent point. Is it easy to find? No. So that's exactly why this topic is so, like, it's not that every day you talk to people, yeah, I found my passion and life is good. It's not that easy. It's because it's not that hard to find your passion. The hardest thing is to find that middle point. Again, I talked about, I have a lot of things that I'm passionate about, basketball, drumming, a lot of things. But again, it's not going to be sustainable until I find this midpoint. So again, are we going to find this midpoint tonight? If yes, I'll be very blessed. If not, just normal. So everything I want to tell you today is just to set a foundation in terms of how I thought about things in the process. And hopefully, maybe, I don't know, 1 year time, 3 years time, 5 years time, you start to realize, okay, now I recall what Gary said. Hopefully that's going to be the best case scenario. So we talked about passion, career I don't need to talk about. The only final thing I want to talk about is on the right-hand side, which is about strength. So how do I know whether something is my strength? Which I sometimes say, what is your thing? Okay, that's something that you're really good at. So you might say, yeah, I know most people are pretty humble, right? You're not going, well, I'm not sure I'm not good at anything. But let me ask you this, okay? Again, the checklist of what you are really good at. Number one, it is something that most people currently, even before you do it as a career, are already praising you about, okay? Which in the past, before I was doing this, just as a student ambassador, a lot of people were praising me about my ability to speak and connect with people. I never thought about it as a career, but yeah, seems like it's pretty consistent that people are saying this. So what I want you to think about is right now, exactly, you never put a lot of effort in it, but people are already telling you, you're good at analyzing things. What do people come to you for? I come to you for travel planning. I come to you for advices. I come to you for helping me on certain things, for execution. There has to be something that is already working in your life, and it always happens around you. You are just not that aware. So what are people asking you to help them to do right now? That potentially would be your strength because it comes really natural. So the second thing is exactly, your strength is a gift. It's something that God has given us. So you should be good pretty naturally and effortlessly. So question, right? If you think about basketball players, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, did they work hard? Definitely. But are they talented to begin with? I would say yes, for sure. If we both did not practice, I'm sure they are already much better than me because that is a gift which we cannot explain. A lot of people are asking me because when I teach presentation skills, they ask me, Gary, where did you learn presentation skills? I will be honest, I never technically learned about it. It was all about the process. A big part of the training was when I was an ambassador. Okay, that was very helpful for me just to figure out my way to speak. But if you're asking me, like, am I someone who just kind of sits back and do a lot of practices how to speak? No. But am I good at this? Yeah. Not to be that humble, I would say, yeah, I'm pretty good at it. So I would say it comes natural. And same for you. I'm sure you also have some talent, which you feel like it's kind of easy and effortless for you, but it actually takes other people a lot more time to figure it out. So from my point of view, what is greatness? Greatness is doing something that you're really talented in, but still working harder than everyone else. Think about Kobe Bryant. Exactly that story. Is he talented? Yes. He is so talented, but he still works harder than everyone else. Just like what I'm doing. One of my talent is speaking, but now on a daily basis, I'm still speaking every single day. So in this regards, I'm also working harder than everyone else. And that's how we maximize our gifts and make a difference. Finally, okay, this is a very interesting thing that I learned it from a friend, is if now you're not even doing this as a career, what would be something that you do so good, even your friends are willing to pay you for it? Okay, not that they're really gonna pay you, but if you really ask for the payment, they would pay you. Again, is it you're gonna help to give them some advice, help them take care of their children? A lot of people are like great artists, if you make a beautiful cake, would they really buy it? Think about this, because if you really want to start a business, the point from not charging anything, from charging $1 on, that is actually a big step. So if there's something you feel like, yeah, now though I'm doing it for free, but if you're willing to charge it and your friend, still willing to pay it, then again, that's a big sign. Chances are you are really good at this. So my thing is back to your strength. What are you the MJ of, right? Obviously, MJ is all about basketball, but what is your thing, right? What is that core strength that fits all these things? People are already praising you about this. You didn't really take a lot of hard work. It just comes in natural. Again, it's not that we don't need to take hard work, but if we put hard work on something that we're really good at, then we become super great. And finally, the payment thing, okay? What is something that you do so well, someone would pay for you? So now, what we figure out is maybe your passion, the checklist, and this is the checklist for your strength. Honestly, if you have these two things, you could find the place that is overlap. The only thing you need is to find a career, either to work in a company that is able to kind of use that kind of talent that you have and that passion, or maybe you start your own company like myself. Okay, so now this is coming close to one of my final remarks, is to build a meaningful career. Okay, so we talked about passion, what passion is about. We talked about connecting the dots, believing the process. We talked about that congruent point. So what really makes a career meaningful, from my point of view, I think I mentioned this before, it's all about contribution. So now, if you're doing something you're not too sure if you're passionate about it, well, honestly, if you're not too sure if you're passionate about it, I would say chances are you're not that passionate about it. But now if you're considering another career that you think I might be passionate about it, but I'm not that sure, then think about this. What are you going to be contributing in that role? Because meaning starts from contribution. Back to my case when I mentioned, what are the things that your company is selling? Product, services. How do you feel like those products or services are benefiting people or giving value to people? Do you feel like that is meaningful? If yes, that's going to be a big part of the meaning and also our passion. Next thing, what kind of value are you creating to the people around us? Okay, for some of you, maybe you don't enjoy the job nature that much, but you really enjoy being a leader. Why? Because you feel like you could inspire someone and groom someone. Okay, that's a different thing. Contributing to the client, one thing, but how are you also contributing to the people around you? And finally, when you're working on something, you are growing yourself. How are you contributing to your family? Are you being a role model for your kids because you're doing something that you like? Do you generate more positive energy that you could share with your family? Okay, are you doing something that you feel like is going to make someone proud? Whatever that is, think about what is the contribution in the career that you're aiming for. Every meaning starts from contribution. Second thing, what is your leverage? When I talk about leverage, there is one person that you're doing all this because of a person, usually. Okay, so that could either be your partner, your wife, your husband. That either could be your kids, because again, I want to be a role model, or I want to earn a little bit more money so I could give them the best things. Or sometimes, or maybe a lot of times, our parents. I want to do this because my dad or mom always wanted me to do this. I want to make them feel proud. I want to prove to them something. Whatever that is, think about the person. Who is the leverage person that creates all the meaning? Because you might be doing something that you don't enjoy that much in nature, but what makes it meaningful is, again, how does that relate to the people that is around you? Maybe you're doing all this, it creates meaning because you are doing a favor for people around you. And at the end of the day, life is meaningful just because of connections and our loved ones next to us. Finally, what would you be the most proud of? Again, one thing that I learned from Steve Jobs, the best way to review our life is think about the point of time before we're going to leave this world. At that point of time, if you only had one day left in life, now you close your eyes. You think about your whole life. What did you do that made you feel the most proud of? Is it something that already happened in your work right now? Or is it something that I never experienced and I could imagine that happening in the future? I would say life is short. We never know what to expect. If you feel like it's not something that I'm already doing, then you might as well go and trial and error, because you need to kind of keep on moving until you find something. Steve Jobs said, you never settle for your passion. Okay, that's something that I realized because, well, who would know? Okay, if one day even I had the crystal ball knowing that today I'm going to become a professional speaker, I would never know I had to change 12 jobs to get there. Okay, the only thing that I believed in is really my passion, believe in life. Just one thing, if some of you who might be worried about, yeah, Gary, I might be able to follow my passion, but I don't know what is guaranteed. The best thing in life is just because nothing is guaranteed. It's all about the process. Again, roller coaster. You don't know what's coming ahead, and that's exactly the most enjoyable part. So I would say, would passion always lead to a very successful career? I would say chances are yes, because passion is a key differentiator. But are we going to go there right away? I'm not sure. But even if you don't get there right away, just by doing something you're passionate about, it generates positive energy. And the key thing is about that positive energy, because once we have that motivation, good things start to happen. And when we are positive, we make other people happy. I don't know if you heard about this. What is a business about? Starting a business is all about making people happy, right? Think about every brand. Why are they earning a lot of money? Because they're making us happy. So if you make yourself happy, you're going to make people around you happy, and that would become the most fulfilling career, because now it is a win-win. Okay, so think about the meaning of our career. Contribution, contribution, contribution. The leverage person. Why am I doing this? Why is this meaningful to a family member or my partner, whoever? Finally, what would you be really proud of if you're going to do a certain thing? Okay, so now this is going to be the final part before we go into our Q&A, which is going to be very interesting. Again, I am aware of some of the technical issues. I hope this works well later on. It's something that I call BOD. And this is exactly how I found my passion when I was younger, pursuing what I'm doing right now. So what is BOD about? BOD is what I call the board of dreamers. So think about this. We always have board of directors at a company level, which are people who gives you direction and vision and motivation, right? What about in life? If we could also have a few people which kind of acts like our board of director in our life, which I call board of dreamers, what kind of advice would they give you right now, considering what you're doing? Would they say, hey, what you're doing is great, keep on doing it? Or would they say, hey, this is wasting your time, Gary, go and do something else? Hey, Gary, I feel like you have the talent, you should be doing that. Whatever that is, if we're able to get ourselves into that dreamer's perspective, we would understand something from our heart, which we never thought about before. So who could qualify to become a board of dreamer? Three things. One thing, someone who has your full respect. Okay, you just respect them a lot. Someone who you aspire to become. So if tomorrow you're going to become that person in your board of dreamers, would you be very happy? Would you be satisfied? If yes, then chances are, yes, that would be someone that is suitable. Final thing, someone who you could fully trust. Again, without a doubt, whatever advice that they would give you, you would just trust, just because you have so much respect and admiration for this person. So take some time. Who would be your board of dreamers? When you're thinking about this, someone who fulfills these three criteria, let me review to you who are my board of dreamers. First person, no surprise, Steve Jobs. Because this board of dreamers is not someone that you really need to talk to for a coffee chat. It's just someone who could be in your heart and tell you something. Okay, because we are kind of connected with different spirits anyway. And if we're really willing to listen, you could. When I was doing this exercise, honestly, Steve Jobs had already passed away. But there was one night I was doing this visualization exercise, which I would do with you very soon. I was asking Steve, okay, now I'm working at Apple. I'm really proud of your company. Should I stay here? Guess what Steve Jobs told me? He said, Gary, don't stay here. This is my company. You go do your own thing. If you want to be proud, start your own Apple. Not here. This is my thing. Go create your own thing. That was something I never expected because this is something from my heart, not something I could rationally think about. But that advice was really critical because at that time, I felt like Apple was already my dream company. But now, because I really listened to my heart and then I heard something different, so that guided a lot of different things in terms of my future path. Second person. Some of you might know him, Tony Robbins. I think the most famous and most well-respected motivational speaker in the world. Some of my friends who have heard me speak before, this is actually my target. My aspirations is hopefully to become someone like Tony Robbins here in Asia. Okay, that is very, very long ago, but that is going to be my aspirations. And I remember when I was doing that exercise, again, we're going to go through that very soon, is I was asking Tony, I said, Tony, what do you think about what I'm doing right now? So Tony said, Gary, I was waiting you for start this business for a long time. Now you're following your passion. You have the talent in it. This is exactly what you should do. And I would do the same thing if I were at your age. Keep working on it. Keep focusing on contributing to people, working hard, make people happy, make yourself happy. Guess what? 10 years later, I might meet you at the same stage. That's huge, right? So why did I hear this? I cannot explain. This is something that came from our heart. And a lot of times, because during evenings, I always do these kind of visualization exercise. I always see or picture myself one day really sharing the stage with Tony, which is an outrageous dream. But if someday that's going to happen, I'm going to tell you, because that is really all coming from listening to my heart. Final person. I don't know if you know him. I'm sure not in person. Jake Sully from the movie Avatar. I can't tell you how much I love the movie Avatar. A lot of inspirations. I might kind of have a separate session just to talk about the learnings about Avatar. But for me, why do I respect this person? Because Jake is really representing courage, being bold, trying different things, and taking responsibility. So same thing. I was going through the process. I was talking to Jake and asked Jake, hey, Jake, do you think I should be opening my business and doing this? Jake said, why not? That was a conversation. Then I was, yeah, right? Life is all about the challenges. It's all about the ups and downs. Go for it, Gary. It was that encouragement that really get me started all these things. So just to kind of give you a sense, yes, it has to be someone that you fully respect, you aspire to become, and you fully trust. But it doesn't have to be a close friend. Of course, for your case, it could be a close friend. It could be your boss. It could be your parents. It might be even your children, whoever that is. But someone that you trust and could give you some great advice. And whenever, because as human beings, we have a lot of blind spots. Whenever we could kind of get these perspectives from people outside, we're going to realize something really interesting. So now here comes to the final part of my sharing, which is going to be really fun. I talked about visualization. I'm not sure if everyone did it before. What I'm going to do later on is I have prepared a music. And what you're going to do is you just need to kind of focus, close your eyes. And I want you to now do me a favor. Think about your board of dreamers first. Only 2 people. Okay, only 2 people. And later on, I would guide you through the process how we could listen to our board of dreamers. So now let me get away from this PowerPoint first. Okay, as I'm about to set this up, God bless, everyone is still hearing me. Could you type on the chat box if you could think about someone who is on your board of dreamers? Who would that person be? Type it out. Okay, so while you're thinking about this, this is what's going to happen. I will brief you first at a very rational level. Then we're going to do a very interesting exercise, which is all about the feeling. So what I'm going to do is later on, I'm going to shift to another screen. I would be playing a video. I would ask you to close your eyes. That's why you need a headphone, because the music would be much better. You're going to close your eyes. I would ask you to take a deep breath, and then you would relax yourself. And when you relax, I would use my voice to guide you through a process. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring Board of Dreamers number 1 and Board of Dreamers number 2 right in front of you. And the only thing you need to do is stay quiet and listen to that person. Now you might be asking me, what are they going to say? You don't need to think about that, because that comes from your heart. Like what I see right now, wow, Marshall Thurber, Sheryl Sandberg, whatever that is. Okay, whoever that person is, just later on, Sheryl Sandberg would tell you something, would give you some good advice. You don't need to think about it. Just follow the throw, go with your instincts. You would hear something that you never expect. Okay, so Dreamer 1, then Dreamer 2. The only thing you need to know is close your eyes and listen to whatever they want to tell you. Then the final part is I would ask you to visualize if you have taken those advices from those two people. Who do you think you would become in 10 to 20 years' time? So for my case, obviously, I'm thinking about, I'm holding hands with Tony Robbins on the same stage. That is what I always visualize. So for your case, you might not know what you will visualize, but again, just go with your instincts, go with the flow. You might see a picture that you have never thought about before, and that is exactly how we identify our passion and purpose right here tonight. Okay, wow, Keanu Reeves. Interesting. Okay, really look forward to what he is going to tell you. So all good? You guys all good? If yes, again, I'm going to shift to that very soon. Only thing I need you to do right now is stay comfortable. If you have your earphone, definitely put on your earphone. Relax a bit. It might take me a little bit of time to kind of set this up, and just enjoy the process. And again, in this process, don't think. Don't think. Just follow your heart. Go with the flow. That is the best way to experience it. Exciting, right, Tim? Yeah. Okay, so stay tuned. Now I'm going to mute the mic first. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Relax. Imagine the first person on your board of dreamers standing right in front of you. Look into this person's eyes. He or she has some great advices for you, for your life, and for your next step. This person will start to speak in the count of 3. Listen. Listen carefully. 3, 2, 1, begin. Now, the second person of your board of dreamers is standing in front of you. Look into this person's eyes. He or she also has some great advices for you. Now, in the count of 3, listen. Listen carefully. 3, 2,
1. Begin. Now imagine, if you have taken all these advices, who will you become in 10 years' time? In 20 years' time? How does it feel when you're living in your dreams? See it, hear it, and feel it. Take a deep breath. Relax. Remember this moment and stay in this moment.
How was it? Did you guys see something that you never thought about? Or I think it's a pretty interesting process. So what I do is I pretty much do this every single night. The beauty of it is really getting you into your heart. We always talk about listening to our heart. Why is it so hard to listen to our heart? Because we could never use our brain to listen to our heart. Just now what happened, I was kind of taking you through a process to, for a second, close your brain for some time and then start to kind of visualize something that is deep in your heart. So remember the advice that you have taken from your board of dreamers. I would say you are not that far from the truth of where you need to be. Remember that, okay? If those make sense to you and you still decided not to take it, then that is our own decision, okay? But at least if you got some new inspirations just now, that is exactly what we're talking about today. I can't tell you how to think about your passion and purpose, but it was exactly that process just now. I would tell you, a lot of times I tell people how I start my business, right? But I would say one key thing that I don't talk about that much is 5 years ago, every single night, I do this visualization. Every night, what I see is myself standing in a very big stage with 20,000 or more audiences. And I'm there just giving a speech and talking about my life inspiration, something like today, and just really enjoying that moment, feeling all empowered. I see all these kind of cameras, lightings. I really enjoy that moment. And when I do it, I hope you felt the same just now. I just felt like my heart, it's pumping and I feel that energy. Sometimes I'm so touched. I wish you might have that experience. Sometimes tears comes down because it really feels like dreams come true when it happens in there. So if you're going to ask me, how does that visualization relate to what I'm doing right now? I see the path coming through. It's exactly because every night I see this in my heart, I have more and more confidence about my speaking. A lot of people ask me about skills. I don't really polish that much about skills. But if there was one thing I could share that makes me maybe a better speaker at this point of time, is because every night I see myself speaking in front of 20,000 people. Could you imagine? I'm kind of tricking my brain, but in a good way, right? So if every night I'm speaking to 20,000 people, a lot of people say, you're now talking to 1,000 people. Why are you not nervous? I couldn't tell them in person, but I would say, guess what? Yesterday night, I just spoke to another 20,000 people. So I don't know how to get nervous anymore in front of those few thousand people because I've seen bigger scenes and I see it every single night. So if there's one thing you could really take away from this session, I really hope that picture sticks with you. And again, that advice really goes with you. And whatever that is, just from this point onwards. If you want to do the same, more than happy to share this music or whatever music that motivates you. Try to do this every night. You're going to get a lot of interesting answers. And every now and then, I would go back to my board of dreamers to get a pulse check. Do you think I'm doing the right thing right now? Am I heading to the right direction? Do you have further advice? I still remember when I began the business, I still get quite a lot of advice from my board of dreamers. Until now, I think yesterday, Tony just told me, you're kind of on the right track, kid. Okay, just work hard, continue to do your thing. Maybe you're going to get there. So hopefully that is the best gift that I could be giving everyone tonight. Thank you very much for joining. And again, terribly sorry for any technical mistakes. Really, I was really worried when the process was going just now because I want to make sure you had the best experience. According to some of the chat, at least hopefully some of you did. So just to kind of summarize this before I go for questions. Again, I know I kind of gone through time a little bit already. So if you have other things to do, feel free. Thank you for joining. If not, more than happy to kind of stay here for a bit to also take some questions if you have. So I think to conclude this is a lot of people would ask me the question, is passion practical? I can't take the risk. My thing is, what is risk about? Is risk about taking a job that you might fail, or is risk about spending a lifetime doing something that you hate? Which one is more riskier? I'm also very risk adverse, but from my point of view, the biggest risk is not to able to fully enjoy life. It is exactly, I'm that risk adverse. I have a lot of motivation doing everything I'm doing. Think about risk. Second question. A lot of people say, Gary, that's great for you. Good for you. I can't find passion at work. My question, who chose to work there? If there is one life lesson that changed everything that we hope to learn, is we always have choices. We cannot change the circumstances around us. We can change everything. We can change people. But what we can change is our mentality, the way that we respond to things. So if you feel like you really don't want to do this and you would regret if you keep on doing this for the rest of your life, then why don't you take a little bit risk to do something different? Because it's exactly because of that little bit risk might change your life forever. So we always have a choice, no matter what you're doing. Stop trying to victimize yourself. It's not helping anyone. No one loves victims. People love dream goers. Go for your dream. When you do that, you generate a lot of power. And more interestingly is when you generate that motivation, you start to inspire people around you. So if you cannot inspire yourself, you're not going to inspire anyone. Final note, someone would say, I need to take care of people. I have no time for passion. My thing is, are you really making the people around you happy? You might be working in a job that is tough, very challenging. You work very hard, but every day when you come back, you're earning a pretty good salary, but every day when you come back, you're not happy. You spread that kind of negativity around to your people and you're not aware of that, right? Sometimes you kind of talk badly in front of your partners, your parents, your kids, whatever that is. Why is this happening? Is because we are not following our passion. We are not taking the courage to really inspire our family. That's what I'm thinking. So now, the only thing that I know is if you truly want people around you to be happy, make yourself happy first. What makes me happy? This is not a selfish thing. It is precisely because I want you to be happy. I need to pursue my own happiness because anything that I do not have, I cannot give. So I hope this really gives you a different perspective why we want to fulfill our passion. It's not a dreamy thing or it's not whatever thing, right? A lot of people ask me, hey, Gary, the training business is very competitive. How do you compete with people? I would say all the topics that I teach is exactly the same that other people teach. My key differentiator is my passion because that's my calling and it links to my purpose. Okay, so that's my sharing right here.